All right. Is this working? Hello? You guys see anything? Hello? You can see me. Why can't I see myself? Okay. I'll just trust the fact that you can see me. Great. All right. Yeah, sorry for that. I couldn't get the chat window before. Now I've got the chat window, but not the live feed. I guess I could just pop this over here. Got a mix of. How's the resolution? Some people I met in Toronto said that they're getting a lot of pixelation, but I want to say that it's their connection on their end that was the issue. There's Austin Burroughs art. Aren't you the guy that won the sketch last week? Great. My friend Big Wormy suggested I turn down the resolution on both cameras. The overhead here is the higher set one, so you can see that more clearly than this lovely image. Well, Austin Burroughs art. Sorry, must have mistaken you with someone else. Okay. Badge viewers can change the resolution on their end, so you don't have to do anything. Perfect. Great. I still haven't quite figured out the camera placements yet. I ordered the stand. I thought I had ordered it, but I had screwed up, and I did not because I had raced over to Toronto. Anyway, so let's see. Yeah, but once I have that, this camera here will be higher up, and then hopefully this will be more over here, and this will be, I don't know, something like that. So I just got back from Toronto. If any of you guys checked out my Instagram account at Jim Lee Art, I shot like 10 seconds of me walking down the freeway towards the airport where, I didn't expect to see this. This is weird. Anyway, with my suitcase, and there are other travelers doing the same thing. Apparently there was a labor strike right that ran to the airport, and it basically hung up all the traffic, and sat in my Uber for like 20 minutes, half a mile outside the airport. And so I decided to hoof it on foot. But that meant carrying my bags, going into a parking garage, jumping over a wall, all these other travelers doing it. It felt like the end of civilization, like the zombie apocalypse or something. Finally made it to the airport, went through customs and passport control. It took me 2.5 hours from downtown till I hit my gate, and luckily I never leave that early to the airport. Maybe 3 hours, which would have put me in half an hour before the flight, which would have been too late. But I left super early this time, so I made it home. Anyway, so this is looks like Green Lantern with a beard. I have no idea what this is for. It's just a sketch pad I had taken with me to Toronto to do some stuff, and I'm going to draw on here. You know what? I'm going to try something. I'm going to tape this board up. I see that the autofocus is working. Before I had disabled that. I apologize for all this. I had taken all these cameras off this Mac and put it in our game room with all the PCs. And I think some of the cameras got mixed around and some of the settings. I don't know what, but anyway, I got in late last night. I slept 9 hours. which was awesome because I was averaging about 5 while I was in Toronto. And it took some fortitude to get out of bed, get over here. All right, I'm going to just check some of these comments here. It's really cool to see how these professional pieces start out. They start out like this. Blank pieces of paper. Do you know what you want to sketch? Or is it impromptu? I have no idea what I'm going to sketch. So I'm going to let you guys choose. But I am going to sketch something, and then I'm going to put it on eBay, and then I'm going to take the money and donate it to relief efforts for the people affected by Harvey, the hurricane down in Houston. It's not going to be a tremendous amount of money, but every bit helps, I suppose. So what do we have? Jessica Cruz, Wildcats, Green Lantern, Phoenix. Wonder Woman, Spartan. Let's try to do a Wonder Woman here. Let's see if I can do this. I just realized I'm way over. I don't know about this taking the board down. Okay. But you also have to understand I'm drawing with this camera right in my face, so I can't really get in around this thing. So I'm going to be drawing from a little bit of a distance, which I talked about in Toronto, how that actually impacts your proportions because you're looking at the drawing from an angle. And I really should be drawing and looking at it from here. So let me see if I can get it into the right position. All right. Okay. Okay. I always start off with the head. And it's always an oval. In my mind, I sort of see her standing 3/4, maybe with a shield right here. See that, right? Let me turn the light over here so I can get rid of that cast shadow. Does that blow it out too much? Does that blow it out up here visually? Okay, good. Because that gets rid of the equipment shadow that was over it. Perfect. Great. Thanks, guys. All right. So this is what they call the gesture drawing. This is the time and place to make all your mistakes and to experiment and really just let the drawing find you. I hate to talk so sorry, it's like early in the morning. But it's really your opportunity to just let it go, as they say. Let's see what happens. And you can see I'm sort of mixing up drawing the edges, the silhouettes, right? The line that defines the exterior of the figure, but also kind of like clay, just kind of creating some of the interior guts here. Maybe a shadow, that would be one breast here, the other one here. The edge of that rib cage, the center line that goes from the neck all the way down, right? Right. And you start seeing kind of the drawing come to life. And because we have more time, I can kind of slow down and kind of walk you through all these kind of steps. When I do a panel at a convention, I typically get an hour, and it gives you enough time to do maybe a headshot or something very quick, but you don't have the luxury of just kind of taking your time, right? If this camera were further back, you could see it all at one shot, but I have to kind of pan and scan here. Who influences your Wonder Woman? I think my influences for all the characters come from the artists I really loved as a kid. Um, so people like Neil Adams, um, Frank Miller, um, George Perez, Kevin Nolan, Barry Windsor Smith, um, on and on. I'll be right back. Hold on. All right. Got some paper towels. I'll be inking here. A couple brushes. These are Princeton. This is a number 5 brush, number 4 brush. The numbers are how thick the brush tips are. Most inkers use a number 2 or 3. These are good for filling in large black areas. Do you generally draw in portrait? 3/4 is definitely the easiest angle to draw anything in for me. Straight on is the hardest because you have to have symmetry and the eyes have to line up and the jawline and the ears. And for whatever reason, I have a blind spot to perfect symmetry, so I always get it wrong, and I have to look at the drawing. So what I can do is kind of look at it backwards through the light. And when you look at a drawing backwards through the light, you sort of see it as if someone else drew it, and that allows you to see maybe mistakes where one eye is higher than the other or proportions are off. It's a great tool, technique, way of learning by yourself, and that was actually passed on to me by the great inker Terry Austin. At my very first Comic-Con, when I was trying to break in to comics, I saw him at the convention. And I went up to him and started talking to him about, I showed him my art, he gave me a critique, very kind, and he told me about that, and I've been using that ever since. You can also take your drawing and hold it to a window with light streaming through, and you will quickly see, hopefully, mistakes that you have a blind spot in your own mind too. Okay. Tiara, hair. Question is, which way is the wind blowing? Let's go this way. And so this is very, as you can tell, it's very stream of consciousness. I'm just really, in my head, I'm not necessarily seeing a certain shape. I'm just letting the kind of pencil move around, and then as I see a line that I like, I kind of go, okay, I want to hit that line and get it to make that the silhouette. Then I'm probably put a robe on her. Okay, so you can actually see you're constructing the object over an object. Right. Pull back. She's kind of got her chest out a little too much. I'm going to pull back on that and kind of make her more standing upright. It's actually more of a modern pose. Definitely in the 90s, people had that, what they call the broke back phenomenon, where they're kind of sticking their chests and their back out simultaneously. It's a tough pose to do, and I use myself as a model. So it makes for horrible photographs as well. Embarrassing photographs. Anyway, but sort of a modern heroic pose is certainly more up and down. So I'm going to adjust everything in a little bit. You know, I'm going to do the one leg kind of slightly forward, another one here. So you just have that suggestion of that. Yep, you have the shield. I pretty much freehand all that stuff unless it's straight on, in which I use a compass because this is turned slightly in space. One good way of doing it is pick your center point. All these lines should be roughly the same distance, right? That distance, that distance here, that distance here. They're all, well, they get thinner over here, but these are more or less the same width. And actually, if you do Captain America's shield, it's the same thing. I actually do that. Rather than trying to draw concentric ellipses exactly, I just kind of measure it out like that. But since this is not Captain America, put that there. The stream quality is very nice. Do you like inking myself? I do like inking myself for the first 4 or 5 hours. After that, I tend to get a little bored. I inked myself on this Death Blow story that's part of the Wildstorm 25th anniversary book. That was just 5 pages, and by the 5th page, I was just on fumes. I was like, not that you can tell, because I basically inked out of order. I jumped around between the 5, but towards the end of inking all 5 pages, I was just going, oh my gosh, it's so much easier just to pencil. Inking is more about technique and shapes and lighting and line control. Drawing is more about volume, and well, penciling is more about storytelling, creating a blueprint. Inking is about creating that finish, and it requires it's a different creative process, a different mindset, and I don't know if I have the mental fortitude to do it full time, but I would like to ink myself on a project someday. I certainly like inking, the individual pieces I've posted online, whether it's Batman or any of these other ones I've done. It's fun. And I certainly ink differently than I pencil because I can't really ink the way I pencil with lots of thrown lines and cross-hatching. It doesn't really work. So when I ink myself, I tend to think of more. I'm drawing more with ink, I guess. It gets down to it. Okay. What kind of lead do I use? This is a lead stick holder. This is a it's a Stettler. It's a German company. So basically, you get a stick of lead like this. This is HB. This will smudge more. HB is like the grade of lead that's in a normal wooden pencil. If you go, there's a scale that goes from like 6H all the way to 6B or something like that. B is the softest, H is the hardest. And by that, you get something that doesn't, like 6H gives you a very clean line. It doesn't smudge, but it's also very hard, and so it's hard to get a dark line. You have to press very hard. HB is like more or less in the middle. There's some other weird grades. I don't know who created the scale, but there's a letter F in there for whatever reason. F is just a little harder than HB. I used F for a long time because it smudged less, but over the years I want to kind of press less, and I find that if I press too hard, the pad of my thumb gets kind of numb, and I kind of feel a little bit now. So over time, over many years of doing that, you start getting kind of start killing that nerve, I think, and so I started using softer leads. Aren't you glad you asked? All right. Do you draw female characters different from the past? There used to be a trend for a huge, yeah, definitely. I think I definitely don't exaggerate the human form in general, both male and female, as much. Whenever I go to Comic-Cons, it's always interesting. People bring up old works to get signed, And man, some of that stuff from the '90s, I just don't understand it. And I'm talking about my own work, where I mean, never mind like the chests, I mean, but like thighs. I drew these thighs which were like 6 feet long on these figures. I'm like, wow, how come? Yeah, I didn't see that one, whether I turned the page backwards or not. But then it makes me wonder, like, well, maybe I'm doing similar things now. I just can't see it, and that's probably very, very true. Okay. Let me see if I can. All right, so got the figure there. Good question, Hardy. What advice would you give your younger self? There's a number of things I would tell my younger self. First, don't sell your shares of Amazon. Jeez. In the '90s, I used to kind of day trading, buying and selling stocks online. Had a ton of Amazon stock and Apple, and I sold it way too, and eBay and Netscape. And I think of those, only Netscape was a loser. But man, I should have just bought and held, because that's advice number one. Piece of advice number one. Number two, don't sweat. I was really competitive when I was younger, and certainly when I was starting out my career, and everything seemed like kind of this life or death struggle. Like, oh my gosh, if I don't get this, if I don't have this kind of promotion, or this inker, or this color, so it just really kind of weighed on me and kind of preyed on my mind. And I think I would go back and say, don't sweat the little things. Like, focus on the big picture more. Think more about sort of long-term goals rather than short-term obsessions. But that's easier said than done. I think it's my current self might not be here if I didn't do all those. If I wasn't so obsessed about the crazy details early on in my career. So one would need a time machine and the ability to kind of go back and forth and see what happens if your younger self heeded the advice of your future self or current self. How was your walk to Pearson Airport through traffic yesterday? It was, I talked about it a little bit earlier. It was very, felt like the end of the earth kind of thing. Like, you know, it's always, I've never done that before, but the idea of carrying your worldly possessions on a roller, luckily I had a roller bag, and you're walking down this man-made structure that was designed to accommodate vehicles moving at, 90 kilometers per hour plus. It feels unreal, surreal. And then all these other cars are lined up, and other travelers are carrying their bags, and the police were up there with their sirens going, and demonstrators, and felt like I was in a third world country. No offense, Canada, I love you, but it was definitely different. How to draw breasts on women? Well, I just did it, so you can rewind to your heart's delight. Seems like your private life is equally awesome. I was just texting with my wife about this yesterday. I'll tell you, we have a lot of kids, and certainly my biggest priority is my family and the well-being of my kids. And I don't know if I have time for anything else besides like work and family. But we definitely do travel. I mean, we like to travel a lot, and we do watch some TV. But for the most part, like I did like golfing all Saturday or Sunday afternoon, or watching a lot of sports events. Or TV in general that kind of disappeared. So, being able to sit down and read a book is actually kind of a luxury. We just do that when we're on vacation. I'll grab a book and hopefully try to finish it. Anyway, so I'm just kind of messing around with details here. I'm going to go to Safari. pull up the Wonder Woman costume that Tony Daniel designed. All right, let's see. So there's a W down here. You know what would be good? I'm gonna mark off where. Mark off where. Okay. Kind of know my live area now. Perfect. All right. Okay, there's a W that goes here. And actually, once you have your structure, it's actually the costume kind of comes at the end, and then the lines really have to go over the forms that you've created. They do change subtly based on the shapes underneath. All right, so just being able to do that, kind of throw lines along a contour in rough sort of parallel, that's something that you just practice a lot. There's no real secret to it. And I don't even care if they match up or meet up here at this point, right here. I'll do that more at the inking. But you really should probably do it in the pencils. Okay. It's really good for these kinds of items like bracelets, capes, because these lines, which indicate form, are useful in creating this illusion of three-dimensionality. You know, we are drawing a two-dimensional illustration. It is a line on a piece of paper that is fooling your brain into thinking it's seeing an object in 3D. And the way you fool the brain is by creating lines of perspective, right? You guys know, understand perspective. All right, perspective. You guys get that? It's a recreation, partial recreation of Fantastic Four #1 cover. But anyway, it creates the illusion of depth and size and scale. So when you get to a drawing like this, to create volume, we're doing the same thing, these perspective lines, but they're not straight and they don't go towards a vanishing point, but they're basically lines that indicate the curvature of space and materials. Okay, so that's her thing. I wonder what I'm gonna put on the shield. I'll put like a Medusa face or something. Because it's a more or less flat surface and it's curved somewhat, you draw it differently than if you were drawing a face that's more 3D. It's almost like you're taking an image and wrapping it over a plate. So it's going to feel a little flatter. And because I want to differentiate this face from this face, this is going to feel simpler and more maybe it's going to be inked differently to suggest that it's metal. Where are you guys all from, by the way? Can you, I'm curious to see where everyone's tuning in from. Russia, Houston, Texas, Brazil, Barcelona, New York, Florida, Israel, UK. Your next door neighbor. I'm kidding, there's none. Jacksonville. All right, pretty much all around the world. How awesome is technology? I'm telling you. Just mind blowing. All right. I'm going to probably put a bit of hair like that. There's a lot of detail. I a lot of detail from my pencils, especially if I'm going to ink myself. I don't go to this level of detail. I've probably started the inks way before this, but since, again, we have the luxury of time. Sorry, there's an off panel there. And then, what's the background going to be? Can make it mascara. These are cliffs, by the way. These are Roman columns. These are the Romanesque or Greek columns. These are, what is it? Dorian? No. Iconic? I don't know. I once used to know many things, but not after being on a plane all day yesterday. Okay. And it goes further up like that. Okay. I'm saving this. Yes, the default setting of Twitch is not to archive your videos. So of course the first one I did was not archived, but all subsequent ones will be. Do I drink coffee? There we go. There we go. I should drink like this. Dumb question. In sketches done, I see some X's all over. What does that mean? X means to fill in that area with all black to an anchor. Sometimes you see an X with BWS next to it. BWS does not mean Barry Windsor Smith. It means black with stars. Although I think people have talked about old George Perez drawings where he would actually draw in each star like this, which is just crazy. And let me tell you, can you guys hear the pencil on paper? Can you hear that? Okay. People talk about the benefits of working digitally versus analog or on paper. This is what I love about drawing on paper. I like feeling this. I like hearing this. I like the tactile response of that. If they can create a drawing program where when you move the nib across the Wacom tablet or Cintiq tablet, you get this kind of sound, maybe I would consider it. That's my idea. Don't steal it. But yeah, I like that. And some paper has a smell. This is pretty. It's not bad. I like putting the tools, various parts of my body, usually above the ears. Anyway, this is done, man. This is done. And I'll go to inks here in a second. I'll work out this hand a little bit for you guys. Usually I just kind of create that shape. If you look at it, you can see the face here. It's right there. Right? That is this. There's the thumb right there. That's the first knuckle right there. But a good way of creating sort of form and structure in your fist is you go from that notch, loop it around. So your first knuckle's there, second knuckle's there, third, fourth, it might be hidden. All right. That's the turn. That's that big knuckle there. Hand turns down. Tendons go like that. Okay. Thank you for the great tip. All right, great. I hope you guys take these tips about hands and spend some time drawing them and posting them online so I can check it out. All right, I'm going to start inking here. Right there. Let me get some. I usually use Pigma microns, and I'm looking for the right size. I took a crap load of these to Toronto with me. These are all 5s and 8s, which are too big for what I want to start with. I want to get a 3. Let's see. All right, here we go. You can see this. Hey, Eric Canetti. Eric Canetti. Hey, if you guys, he's a fabulous artist. He's joined us now. It's at Eric Canetti, EricCanete. He's an amazing artist. He was actually part of Wildstorm. He used to commute down from LA like 3 hours each way to hang out and draw at the studio. And he also has a Twitch channel. He does instructional videos. I think it works mostly digitally, but I've also seen him draw on paper too. But his stuff is just fantastic. The proportions, the way he kind of emphasizes shapes, silhouettes, and stretches the body to create really dynamic forms. Really, really interesting art. You guys should definitely check that out. Okay, all right. I'm going to start inking this thing here. And Eric actually did one of my favorite G.I. Joe pieces, which I try to replicate a little bit. I did a Suicide Squad cover where I think it's Deadshot with a gun and Harley Quinn, and they're all kind of... it's actually... Eric's is an homage to, I think, a Michael Golden cover of the G.I. Joe, I think. I don't know who the original artist was, but it was all the characters kind of standing in the spot with, like, all kind of looking out from that spot. So there's this great perspective and this group shot. And Eric did this amazing piece, and so that kind of stuck with me. And then when I did my Suicide Squad one, I was trying to channel that kind of energy and perspective. This is kind of a dead marker. I don't know. See if I can finesse using a 5, a 0.5. This goes in the trash. Okay. So you can use a thicker marker if you kind of use the edge of it. You know, I did a panel yesterday, or no, it's 2 days ago in Toronto, and I was just joking about like markers, and this kid, this fan, he was kind of, he was goofing on me, and I was kind of goofing on him, but we talked a little bit about markers and whether a marker was dead or not. And let me just say that I work with markers all the time, and they're things that I think if you do use tools all the time, and look, anyone can tell you, whether it's a mechanic, house painter, uh, someone that plays a musical instrument, you're able to do things with tools that other people can't, just because you use them all the time. And so you can take like a 0.5, a thicker marker, and if you use kind of edge of it, you can actually produce a thinner line pretty consistently. So here I screwed up. This distance to this distance was too much. Since this is a 3/4 shot, everything's kind of turned into perspective. Everything going towards that vanishing point, which is over here, is going to be thinner and shorter than anything on this side. So to create that illusion of depth, I needed to move that over here. But I know that I'm going to fill this in with black for the hair, so I don't really sweat it. In fact, I do a lot of that while I'm making my own work. I sort of make a mental list in my head as I go through and go like, oh, okay, screwed up that. I'm going to fix that with whiteout, or I'm going to draw over it and fix it with an element of hair, maybe kind of hiding something, or I'm going to go back in and ink it, or white it out and re-ink it. So it's kind of a mental list of things that needs fixing. Okay. I actually don't like the expression that she has on her face right now, so I'm going to subtly alter it, or hope to alter it. A lot of times when I'm drawing or sketching, I don't know what the expression on the face is going to be. If you go online, you can see like hundreds of Batman profile drawings that I've done, and each time I draw it, they're all slightly different in some way. I don't know how it's going to turn out. Just you do it, your hand moves, and you see it, and you can kind of course correct as you're working on it. But the ultimate expression or result is something that's a combination of something that I'm trying to create versus kind of what just happens. And so even with this, I'm not 100% sure that I'm going to be able to change this expression into something that I like better. So, and I don't know if, Eric, if you feel the same thing, but there are times where you go like, oh, that turned out all right. That I didn't necessarily. Sometimes you get something that is independent of your own intentional thought, and that's kind of when you kind of sit back and go like, oh, that turned out better than I had hoped or expected. So now, the nose here. The shorthand for nose. It's a nostril, the tip of the nose, and then a shadow. The other side, shadow of this little frenum or whatever it's called. I don't know. Just kind of mumbled that word. And now the lips. And with the eyes, I'm really drawing just the top part of the eyes. It's almost as the eyeball itself, if you were to draw a circle, it's almost like there's water fluid on the bottom part, so you're only seeing the top part of the eyes. It's almost like they're about to start crying, but they haven't. And so when I draw an eye like this, and I want to draw the top part of the pupil, which is that's when I'm sort of suggesting that idea that it's so, there's water in there, and it's reflecting a light source, and it just gives it a kind of a more haunting kind of look. Also creates a little more three-dimensionality, and I think it looks more dramatic. Little mustache. Yay, Bob Ross. All right. Oh, that's a little mustache? I guess, if you look at it that way. That would be kind of funny. Anyway. Here she looks a little bored. Hey, can't be heroic all the time. It's 11:10, so an hour's gone by. I'm trying to be mindful of the time. It is Labor Day here. I think we're going to go see the Dodgers tonight. So I give you this whole song and dance about how I've got no time to do anything other than drawing in my family. I'm going to go to a baseball game tonight. But I'm going to go with my family, so kind of two things at the same time. So now I'm going to do the cheekbone here. And if you notice, I go from sort of a thinner line to lines that are more close together, approximating a black value or shade there. And that's just creating a very graphical rendering of gray tonal values, right? With the pencil, you can go from white to a light gray to a medium gray to a dark gray to pretty dark. And so that's kind of analog, right? There's all these values along this infinite spectrum. With inking, theoretically, you can either, it's digital, you can only put white or black. And since you only have two choices to create gray values, you have to create lines or feathering. But, you know, if white is represented by zeros, light gray would be that. Oops. All right. Using math here. All right, so with each of these, okay, it's getting darker and darker. And you can also do stuff like this, right? And so that's what cross-hatching is, right? That represents this. That might be represented by this. That might be represented by this plus this, right? So each of these are getting darker. Yep, binary, that's what I meant, not digital. The philtrum, that's right, the spot between the, it's unimportant. You know, when you first start out, you think you have to memorize all the names of the muscles. And actually, you know who does? Yannick Paquette. I did a panel with him in Toronto. Guy's like got a very sort of similarly wired brain, the way he approaches drawing. And he's talking about all these like forearm muscles and the names of them. I'm just like, wow. I had no idea. Okay. So I know I'm going to go back in with a brush on this hair, so I'm not going to worry too much about each of the different strands. I'll deal with it when it gets to white out and brush. So I'm just really going to try to capture some of the shapes. Now, if I were penciling this hair myself, I would go in and do every, you know, sort of bit like this. So that's one way of doing hair, but the way I'm going to do hair, I think, on this piece, use a brush for the most part to do most of it. Although, I don't know, that looks good. Maybe I should just ink it that way. And there's obviously time implications of doing it one way or the other. But they also look very different. You know, it's kind of whether you want something very rendered or something that looks more graphical and flat. So as I'm doing this, I'm thinking about the form again. Everything, you're always thinking about the form. Always be forming, all right? ABF. And so that hair kind of goes like this over the head. So the highlight is going to be right along that. All right, it's going to be right there. All right. And so as I render, as I get closer to that highlight, I'm going to leave it open like that. And then as I get away from that highlight into the shadow, it goes more to a black. Okay. but you don't want to hit it so evenly across that highlight that it looks artificial. Hair is very unruly and chaotic in structure. Not chaotic, I can't even think of the word. It's not regular, random. Okay. Right, so then even here, there's going to be a highlight there. But you don't want to put too many highlights because then it looks over-rendered. So you sort of course correct, and you're editing the entire way as you're drawing something. You're doing things because you know the structure is there, you have your techniques, you know where the shadows should be, the highlights should be, and you go ahead and do that. But then towards the end, you're going to look at the sum total of the drawing and go like, oh, you know what? The drawing would look better if there was a stronger light source here and everything else were black, and you'll go back in with a brush or whatever and fill it in. But that's something you're thinking in your head as you're working on the piece. So it's just the same way if you were writing an essay or a paper, you're putting your thoughts down, but then even as you're writing it, you're either going to edit it on the fly or go back and delete sentences or words that don't make sense or clutter the meaning, bad grammar, syntax. I like to compare drawing to a lot of other things, whether it's math, writing, music. So I think it helps gives insight to the process and other ways of approaching it that might give you guys some insight on how to tackle a project. Okay. So the hair you just sort of freeform? No, I freeform based on the sort of the principles I just drew. Damn autofocus. I really should turn that off. Is it autofocusing badly? It's not too bad. Oh yeah, that's not good. I think it's like light balance. Hold on. Maybe there's a way for me to get rid of that. Got it. I'm going to turn off that. Okay. Where's focus? All right. Let's see what happens. All right. I turned off autofocus and gain and all that stuff. Look at that. Did I miss anything? Just spent 10 minutes cleaning my kid's puke. You missed nothing, dude. Your kid will thank you for you being a good dad later on. All right, keep going with this. We'll put something here. Won't be good. You know what I'm gonna do? Some weird abstract thing here. And all I'm doing here with this sort of ornament is, you know, if you were drawing an 8-ball or any sort of black sphere, you would have, if there's a light source here, you'd have that reflection of the sun on this black surface. A lot of times if it's an apple or something, it's a square like this because that's a reflection of the window that's over here. and that's black. And then this light bounces off the floor and bounces back up that way. And that's called underlighting. So all I'm doing with this thing, it's half a sphere. It's catching reflections off a strong light here, and then there's underlighting that's creating this light here. That gives it kind of this shiny, spherical look. Make sense? Ding! It's an instant message too. It's my dog. Anyway. Okay. Kind of thin down that, shave it down there, shave down that cheek. Is this too slow, too fast? I can't imagine it'd be too fast, but because I can go faster too. Hot Pockets, yeah. I don't have any here, but there is a microwave behind me. Good speed. All right. How long does it take you to do a cover like Metal Number 1, Wonder Woman? Look, it really varies. I can draw something in 3 hours, and I can draw it in 15 hours, and it probably look the same to you. In that the 15-hour one, there's probably a lot more erasing obviously going on, and redrawing. It's really not about the time. It's like how focused and in the zone you are. If you have an image in your head and you're able to go and you're warmed up and you've been drawing all week and you're not too physically tired, you can go in and crank out a great cover in 3 to 5 hours. And then there are other covers where if you're just physically tired or don't feel inspired, you can still turn out something good. It just might take you a lot longer, and so you spend 15 hours on something that's kind of comparable. So time is really not a great indicator of anything other than sometimes if they're just things that are very, very detailed, it might take more. But even detail, like, man, if you're sort of at full steam, full speed, I can do that stuff pretty fast. But that Wonder Woman cover, because it's only one figure and she's fighting a robot, and I don't know, probably took me like 5 hours. And it's always interesting when I tell people like how long it took to do something. Half the people are like, "Wow, that's amazing that you did it that fast," and the other group are like, "What? 5 hours? It took you that long to draw that?" So it's that's why I find it kind of sort of almost meaningless to tell people like how long it takes, because everyone has a different expectation of or understanding or belief of how long it takes to do what we do. So as you see, as I ink, and one of the reasons I didn't tape this down is even though I can kind of throw the pen probably at all different angles, multi-talented that way, it's easiest to throw it at certain angles because you're really drawing from your wrist, and your wrist moves best at certain angles, right? It's hard to do this. So it's easier to move the paper around and just kind of flick the wrist as it's most accustomed to create the lines that you want exactly in the direction that you want, the width that you want, the energy that you want. Okay. And inkers do the same thing. So it's a lot easier to draw moving the paper around. Again, that's another reason why digital to me is not as useful. Although in digital, of course, you can grab the frame and turn it. It's just a little more tricky doing it a little more time, I guess. And if you notice that I'm moving the pen pretty fast, you can actually hear it kind of, the plastic nib whip across the page. So that means that it's kind of barely making contact. And a lot of times to get the thickness or the darkness of the line, I'm kind of hitting that line a couple times. So I'm hitting that line 1, 2, 3, 4, all in the same spot for the most part. So again, hitting that, the ability to kind of hit that line over and over again, something that comes about through practice and repetition. And at some point here, I'm going to switch over to a thicker marker, like 0.8. So I'm trying to remind myself to breathe sometimes. I find myself holding my breath. You gave my brother a pen. It was a broken pen, yes, I remember. You'll soon find out. Get an old-fashioned light box, much easier to rotate the paper. Not sure I follow, but it's pretty easy rotating the paper this way. I don't know how it can get any better or simpler. Hold on 1 second. I have a message I have to respond to. Okay. So I didn't quite like the flow of that fist there, so I just shaved off a little bit there. If I were penciling this like as a cover, I would be penciling and erasing a lot more. Because this is a piece that I'm inking myself, it's just going to be a little looser, rougher. Have any of you guys followed other types of Twitch streams, like watching people like play Dungeons and Dragons? I saw that some tweets about it last night. I don't know like how engaging that would be, but then again, you're watching someone draw, so I don't know. I guess at some point there's always an argument to be made that watching anything firsthand would be a little. Sorry, I'm bumping this with my hand, my head. Oh, somebody's calling me. That's true, social eating, that. Yeah, you're right. I've seen those too. Like a Korean thing, right? I mean, it's all over now, but there are YouTube sites where people get suggestions on what to eat, and people tune in to watch that. Yeah. Anyway. So other things I like to do with my family, we like to game, mostly video games, but I do want to get them into D&D at some point. But that didn't quite turn out the way I wanted. I actually went like that, and then like that. Makes it easier to. So I'm going to fix that with white out. I'm going to get a video capture card and be able to split the screen on one of the computers, or two gaming computers, so that we can also Twitch some gaming sessions. Overwatch, Counter-Strike, I already did that. Sims 3, people still play that game. One of the best games ever was Civilization 2. You guys, old-time gamers, play the game all night long. You see this game, these lines here, not the straightest, not the best, but I'll tell you that anytime you move away from this area, which is the center of focus of the drawing, you don't have to be as concerned about level of detail, line crispness. In fact, I think it looks better sometimes if the lines get more abstract and flowy and just kind of scribbly as you move away from that area. You know, Bill Sienkiewicz to me is a master at that, where he kind of combines things that are super tight and focused and other elements that are very raw and loose and rough, and he creates that dynamic between control and looseness, chaos and control, that makes the drawings come to life. It's not about having a deadline and the same level of control throughout the drawing, although that is completely an approach, and there are artists that do that. I'm less interested in those kinds of drawings. I like it when there are variations in focus and focus and attention and line control, line weight, all that kind of stuff. And so as we move away from the center of interest, it can get more abstract and can have more energy and flow, and that helps contribute other elements to the drawing that aren't necessarily technical in nature or structure. All right, hold on one second. Quiet someone down. Triangle of interest. People look. I think we're hardwired to look at the face of anything. That's communication. So when you draw something, people are going to look to the eyes for emotional content, emotional subtext, context. You want to be hardwired that way. So good. All right. This marker is about to die. What I think of Amsterdam's Holland, beautiful, beautiful city. People are very nice. Beautiful city. Highly recommend visiting. So 0.8, it's almost on its last legs too. Thing with a dead marker is, again, you can get thinner line with it, especially if you apply just a little pressure and move very quickly. Okay. So for the trash. So I'm getting to the point where I'm almost done with all the line work. And go in with a brush. Bring it on home. If you guys are just tuning in now, you have come to the Jim Lee Twitch.tv channel. I am live sketching this drawing of Wonder Woman in a rebirth costume. And I'll be dropping this on eBay. I think eBay, yeah, eBay, and going to donate the proceeds to relief efforts for those affected by Hurricane Harvey. I haven't quite figured out which charity that's going to be. Obviously, there's always, whenever these things happen, there's all sorts of banter and debate about where a dollar goes to best value or best use. I think anything is helpful at this point, right? And then put draw through. I forgot her knuckles here. This handcrafted artisanal shield. So it's going to have some weathering from previous battles. Do I listen to music or anything while you draw? I usually listen to Howard Stern. Those programs like a good 3 or 4 hours. It's hilarious. It's a real soap opera. Amazing interviews. And I've been listening to Howard for decades at this point, I think. And it's all on Sirius On Demand. And so I'm able to re-listen to or broadcasts I missed while traveling or working or whatever. But there are times when I do listen to music. Soundtracks to movies are good. Classical music's great. Modern music, alt rock, all of it. It's all about variation. Okay. So I'm just going to put some Greek, that's a bad pun, I'm going to Greek in some detail for these structures in the background. Because they're far away, they're going to be a little sketchier. They will definitely be sketchier. And so I'm really drawing the shadows in between columns. You know what would be good though? Got the straight edge. I'm just going to make it easy for myself. Right, these are sort of Parthenon-esque buildings in the background here. Make sure I get that in the right place. And I'm going to make them kind of blend into the background when I go in, hopefully with the marker of the brush. It's going to look kind of like this. Proof of concept here. And we're at the 11:35 mark or so, 11:40. All right, see that? Will you please tell about professional values which professional artist needs? Are you talking about like belief systems or professionalism, being on time, being gracious to fans? I don't know. Or are you talking about tools? Okay. All right. Okay. Make sure I'm gonna have multiple windows. It's kind of a mess. Can't see me do the detail. All right. Let me see if I can draw it this way. I think my hand was in the way. All right. So it's kind of like this. You just little dots. You're just creating shadows in that rocky. Right? And then sometimes you do kind of like wave-like type things, right? But you've got to leave areas that are white. It's the contrast between the white areas and the dark areas that sell this notion of rocky textures and the illusion of depth and reality and all that kind of stuff. Maybe there's some stairs. This is actually very Bob Ross-like here. I feel like this. And maybe there's some stairs that just go right here. You know, for all the little Amazonians to like walk up to when they're going to meditate and pray to the ancient Greek gods. Right, like that. Happy little stairs. That's right. Happy little stairs. That was completely random. Just drawing, looking off to the panel, to the screen. So yeah, so sometimes it's good to completely freeform and like look the other way while you're drawing, you will definitely get something that you had not intended to. The mind kind of likes order, and so like when you draw clouds, I really try to almost close my eyes or not look at what I'm drawing because I don't want my mind to kind of guide my hand and create something that does have structure. And so when you're doing organic shapes like this, you really do want the hand to kind of have its own autonomous control to kind of give you something that looks nature-made versus man-made, right? Man makes things that look like columns with regular structure. Nature has its own patterns, but they are typically asymmetrical, and they have a certain their own sense of random order. Cliff above this thing here. Sometimes a scribble gets you a nice abstract kind of gray shape. Okay. Doing it all in pen, risky. I live for the risk, yes. It is risky doing it all in pen. That's why there's white out. Alright. Okay. I'm gonna get some, put that right there. Oh, wait, here I can show you kind of the whole thing. So that's the bottom. And then going to the top. Okay. PS4. You know what? I have both Xbox One and PS4 systems. My kids really gravitate towards PC gaming, and so that's kind of where I'm at. So if the game's available on PC, that's what we get. That's what we typically play. We have all the PCs in one room facing each other, two facing each other. So four square, and we have a lot of fun with that. Honestly, PC games have better graphics, more powerful processors, and I think personally I find it more immersive, and I really not big with gaming console controllers. I've always struggled with those. Mouse, keyboard, ASWD movement. That's what I grew up with. That's what I enjoy. Oh. All right. Okay. So here's what I use. These are tools of the professionals. Here's Black India ink, Ultra Draw, Rapidograph. It's made by Cornor, I think. It is waterproof for paper and film. I like it because they are, I don't know, they don't leak when you travel, right? Unlike the ones that have like the rubber tips. Sometimes the rubber nozzles at the top can leak a little bit, so this is pretty sealable. Has just the right amount of ink, and you can pour it directly onto the page. And I can't do that here because this is at an incline, and the ink would start running this way. But typically if I ink on a flat surface, I'll put the ink directly on and then spread it around. So what I use instead is this super professional item. It is a water bottle cap. And I fill this up with ink because the ink dries at a certain point after you use it, and I don't like to clean things, so I just throw this thing away. If I had a larger vessel to hold ink, I would have to continually clean it because when the ink dries in it, it kind of forms a crust and particles can get in your ink and all that. So I just use this. It's very temporary. I can use it for 2 or 3 times, and then I toss it, fill up a little bit of ink, and you just kind of dip your brush into that. So I'm going to put it right here. Okay. All right, let's see, where am I going to start? You know what? I forgot to do this Odisha. Sorry about that. Let me do this really quick. You know, in ancient Greeks, they couldn't do eyeballs, so they just made them black. They would hollow it out. Look at those old statues. Maybe they put like colored stones in there to represent the peoples. I don't know. Okay. Okay. This is metal. It's going to look kind of have a similar texture to the rock. It's going to be a little more fine tuned. Two little lovely snakes. It's kind of fun inking stuff like this because it's very organic. You can make all sorts of mistakes and kind of really just draw on the fly. And that's to separate from this is supposed to represent reality, so it's not going to have the same degree of weathering. So the line is just going to be a little rougher, looser. Blurry? Have you ever gone through a period without drawing and was it hard to get your touch back? Yes. If I stop drawing for like 2 to 3 days, it's very hard. That's why the start of a book. That's why the start of a book is always slow going to get going. And it usually takes me like 5 days to kind of get up to speed. But when I draw a book, I will jump out of order. I don't draw page 1 and then page 2 and then 3, 4. I will jump around. In fact, I won't. A lot of times I'll save like the best page in the book or the most visually appealing till like that 6th day, and then I'll tackle it and mix it around. Because if I am on fumes by the end of the deadline, I have to kind of crank on that last page or so. It might end up being a page 6 or a page 3. It's not going to be page 20 every single time. So it's a challenge sometimes to keep the continuity, the story continuity, consistent. But I find that gives me the best sort of results, and I've been doing that for many, many years. So there's some symmetry, obviously, to this, as to many sort of shields, vases, all that kind of stuff. All right. It's almost noon. I'm going to definitely go longer, I think. Get this done. I still don't want to do a very quick sort of headshot as a giveaway for you guys that have tuned in. I actually got a subscriber. There's a person that subscribed to my channel, which was unexpected, very cool. I'm still kind of learning about this whole phenomenon, live streaming, and I will figure out some way to something for like just the people that subscribe to get in on some cool stuff. I haven't quite figured out what yet, but I'll figure it out. There's no rush. I'm just really looking to So you understand and have some fun with this. So thank you, person that subscribed. Okay. All right, now let's see if I can figure out where the rest of our hair is going to be. I had a lot more of this hair kind of up here, but I'm deciding against that at this point, I think. I'll bring it more down here. Okay. So since this side of the building is facing us, the gaps are a little thicker than the ones that are in perspective going to the vanishing point. That sells that kind of depth. All right. More happy stairs. Amazonians, they love walking, that's for sure. I think one of them would go like, hey, what if we left this island and moved somewhere that was flat? That's if I ever do Wonder Woman, that's my storyline right there. They'll go to the dark side of the moon. That's the right side. John Galt, talk about professional skills, values, drawing skills, decency. I'm not sure. Sure, it's important. I think it's important for, even if you're not a professional, even if you aren't an artist, I think these are talking about things that everyone should feel and be, the way everyone should behave. All right, I'm going to think here. I'll start somewhere to kind of test this brush out. It's kind of like a little stray. What I basically have been doing is rolling it like this. There's like a stray hair. You see that? That's going to create a line that we don't want. All right. So I got rid of that. Roll it. No, I did not get rid of it. It's right there. It's a lot easier to do this when the brush doesn't have ink in it. Okay. I pulled it back. I should do it. Let's get back in the field here. There's going to be some mottling, M-O-T-T-L-I-N-G, weathering, stippling, whatever. It's actually thicker than stippling. I think mottling is the correct term. I'm going to stick with that. All right, that gives it that texture. You guys all know each other? You guys having a separate side conversation over here? Oh, man. All right, let's do this. Again, thing with the brush, it's like any other tool. The more you use it, the more comfortable it feels, the more you're able to use it like a pen. At first, it's going to feel very strange because it's such a flexible nib tip, and you don't know how much ink you're going to get when you press down on it. Just work through it. Realize you will get better at it, like playing a musical instrument. The more you use it, the better control you'll have, and you're going to be able to. Mistake there. you see I just kind of model on that side. Light source is there for the most part. Well, it is now. And with the brush, you can tell that it holds ink for quite a while. And as the brush starts losing ink, it goes into a state which we call a dry brush. A dry brush has ink in it still, but not enough to give you a super dense line. I can already feel that the ink is already running out right now. But a dry brush has a lot of value and use in inking. And so when it gets to this point, which it seems to be at, see how you kind of get a gray line there? And that's the closest thing to a pencil tonal value that you'll get using brush in the ink. And so maybe I'll go in now and do some metal effects. So I'm almost kind of using the brush to fill in black areas, waiting for the opportunity to do this. It's 12 o'clock now, Pacific time. Been working on this now for maybe an hour and a half. Getting pretty close though. And as it gets drier and drier, you kind of have to keep repeating the movement to kind of get anything out of it, which is fine. Again, the more you do this, the more control you have, you'll know what you're going to get. You feel it looks random, but again, when you do it quite a bit, you're able to, you are going to get some random shapes and lines and values, but for the most part, you kind of know what you're going to get. Okay. As you get older, is it harder on your body? It is harder on your body staying up all night drawing. I still do it too often. But yeah, that's the hardest part. On your back, on your joints, like, you know. But I still enjoy drawing, so that's kind of what makes it worth. And I'll tell you the best feeling. Best feeling is not when you're done. For me, the best feeling is when you are close to getting done and you know you're going to finish, and it might be like an hour out before you're going to finish and you're going to make your deadline. That's the best feeling. I don't know why. Just that sensation of being close. Because when you're done, sometimes you just see the mistakes and whatnot, or you're too exhausted. But when you know you have something in the can, the last hour and a half, it's like a victory lap in a way. How many of you guys have never been to a Comic-Con before? Just curious. Or as fans, have all of you, for the most part, gone to a convention at some point? Ant33060, what is the Douglas Adams quote about deadlines? I don't know. Where am I? Okay. I'll just finish this up over here. Probably been better on camera. Just popping in some shadows there. Kind of push it back. And then I'm going to go back over here, finish filling in some of the black shapes I had in mind here. Give a little weight to those stairs. Finish popping some shadows here. And look, this is where people kind of rag on abstract paintings or drawings. This is where that skill set really comes into play. I'm drawing reality, but I'm also creating contrasting shapes, abstract shapes of black and white. And so if you do a lot of abstract drawing or painting, that's where it comes into play here. Because you want to create something that has, if you just kind of squint at it, has some visual dynamic contrast, independent of being rocks and steps and temples or whatever. So it will guide you in terms of how do you decide what to make black and what not to make black, and that will help you kind of hone that muscle, right? Learning about composition, power composition, contrasting values, things like that. It seems like a lot to learn, man. I don't know. This whole drawing thing is making it more complicated than it is. It should be fun. You should enjoy it. Just remember what I'm saying is just my own experiences with it. Don't feel like it's something that you have to sort of study and master. People self-teach themselves all the time how to draw, because we all have reality as our guide, our teacher. You get your sketchbook, you get your pen, you go out there, you'll learn a lot just by doing. The background is almost as beautiful as the foreground. I should just cut it into quarters and sell. All right, thank you. That's a very nice compliment. The background's kind of impressionistic, right? It's shadows. It suggests detail without actually including a lot of detail. So this dry brush is great for metal effects, essentially. All right. And happy accidents. And where to put these shadows and lines. A lot of life drawing will kind of teach you where highlights on the human face are, right? Put some of these kind of darker shadows. Right. Is the screen too dark? How long have you been doing this for? I started this about an hour and a half ago. I've been drawing now professionally since 1987, so 30 years. It's a long time. A little dark? Okay, hold on. I'm going to just adjust it just a little bit. Oh, right there. There we go. All right, make a little bit more. You know, you can turn up your own damn exposure. I'm just kidding. On your screens, you might be able to hit the light button. Maybe. All right. Non blurry. Oh. Okay. Okay. All right. I lost some ink there. Dip some back in. Okay. And some thinner lines. The thing with reflections is you don't want it to all look the same in terms of thickness and line weight and all that stuff. So I'm using dry brush technique here, even on the cloth, but not as dry as the metal, right? To suggest a material like velvet or some sort of other coarse wool type thing. Okay. Now what's going to make all this feel metallic and shiny is you hit the lines with white out at the end. And so in my mind, I know I'm going to do that. Okay. Then we'll go with darker values around this face to make this center part pop out. Right? It's like that old Mitch Hedberg joke. I was going to get a tan, but I decided to whiten my teeth instead. Approximately, that's the joke. So to make this lighter in value, I can put more whiteout effects on it, or I can just make the things around it darker, and then contrast, it will pop out. So over here, I'm basically trying to get it to a dry brush effect. What I like about doing this kind of thing is that the brush, because it has a certain pattern to the hairs, it will give you a sort of a random but regular shape, and you can use that to great effect in creating textures. The illusion of patterns. Okay. Like any object, like this object here that we talked about before, there's going to be a kind of a core shadow that exists here, and I'm going to basically hit that core shadow using this brush. So there's just going to be a darkness in this general area that you'll see if you kind of squint at the drawing more. Then it gets lighter over here. All right, you guys see that? for affirmation. How important are your surroundings when you draw? I can draw pretty much anywhere. I've drawn in hotel rooms, on the floor of train stations, on the floor of trains, sitting in my seat on a plane. My office tends to be pretty messy. I've got drawing supplies all around me on the floor. I am definitely a horizontal organizer. And I did that early on in my career because I didn't want to be an artist that was basically only able to kind of draw and create if I was in my studio with my brushes, with my tools, etc. All right, hold on one second. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm getting closer. All right, I've got to do the hair here. Let's see how this is going to look. So I'm pretty much inking kind of the wells, the areas that would be kind of hidden in shadows, shadows created by the curvature of the hair itself. And then once I do that, I'm going to pull back, and I'm not really looking at the overall thing. I'll look back at the overall thing in a second. See where I'm at. Okay, very dark over here, very light over here. So I'm going to start adjusting the values and filling in some of these gray shapes that I had. All right, see what, so it feels more solidified, so it doesn't look like those, just a bunch of line work here and a bunch of black shapes over here. Lou Morning says, "Speak up, my guy." Is it hard to hear me? All right, hold on one second. Okay. Keep the door closed. All right. All right. Let's get this done here. I need to hit some white out there because obviously the tiara is kind of disappearing into the hair. I need more of these kind of shapes here. Get some depth. All right. And obviously this is all kind of rough, and will be cleaned up when I do whiteout and stuff like that. Okay. Got a bit of whiteout here. Create that shape. Oops, sorry. I'm close to being done here. Really, maybe just a little detail and whiteout. I actually like a lot of the pencil lines to show up on the drawing. And but sometimes the lines are too dark, and so I'll go in with an eraser. It's a partial eraser that was broken, and I'll get rid of some of the thicker ones and leave some of the lighter ones, so the underdrawing. And if you erase all the pencils, the ink kind of looks light, and I like kind of the pencil lines underneath the ink lines, giving it some weight and value. Yeah. Hey, it's my dog. Hi. I also have a click eraser. I can find it. For right here, click eraser, Pentel click eraser. One that's working properly. You're able to go in and hit very specific areas. It's a lot better than a kind of a gummy eraser, which can leave stickiness to the paper, or a pink eraser, which can actually decolor or color the paper to a kind of a pink sheen. Some people use, I have like these brushes that they use to clean eraser shavings off. Too cheap for that, I guess. Alright, so this is what I've got so far. Okay. Who needs a brush? Just smack the paper a few times. Exactly, exactly. Alright, give it a little eyeshadow here. Make that nose pop a little bit. Color the lips. Give a little bit of a highlight. Extend that gray out. Okay. So, create some values here using just a pencil. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. All right. This is Pentel Presto Whiteout. Buy at any office supply store. Clean that nib. And then try to get some flow going first. Let's see if I can grab this with my foot. Pretty decent flow. So I'm able to go in and start making some corrections. This line here. Takes a second for the stuff to dry, so you don't want to smear it. So I'm going to jump around, and I've got that mental hit list of things I need to fix. All right. $12.30. Some textures. Give it again a crafted look. Okay, that shield is done. Some white on black areas here. Right. Very Bob Rossian right there, just kind of some light areas out of the shadows. All right, working white back into the black. Clean that up a little bit. Okay. Stiples here. create, trying to not get my hand on the whiteout, so that's not good. Right here. Basically hitting the top side of all the segmented armor. That's what gives it a sort of a 3D sheen to it. Break this line a little bit. All right. And then, what the heck? So ghetto, dude. Anyway. There we go. Brings out the highlights. Okay. Okay, that's the whiteout section of the program here. And then the final bits will be done with a marker. So just cleaning up some of the line work, making some values darker, thinning out some of the whiteout effects so it doesn't look like, you can tell that I use a 1 thickness kind of whiteout marker to create all my whiteout effects. All right. Cast shadow here to suggest the curvature of the thighs. And then I just finish up the hair here. Kind of drawing lines back into the white shapes that I created. So they don't look like white blobs on black space, but hopefully like strands of hair blowing in the wind. All right, it is 12:35. I'm done with this piece. So like I said at the beginning, this piece will be put on eBay. The proceeds will go towards relief efforts for those affected by Hurricane Harvey. And now I'm going to do a very, very quick headshot for somebody out there. All right, so I will post this, I'll scan it and post it up on my Instagram page. I can't wait to be outbid on eBay. That's the spirit. All right. Okay. Okay, got another. It's just going to be a quick headshot. I think I'm going to go ahead and do the Joker. It's a lot of fun to do. See if we can do something kind of atypical, kind of an upshot. There's the nose, eye, the mouth, the teeth, lower teeth, chin, ear, neck, hair, underside of the hair, cheek, other cheek, more of the nose. Okay. Got it? Done. It's perfect. All right. Here we go. Always. Ah, my God, this marker. All right. The reason why I throw them on the ground is so I'll throw them away later. If I put it here, it's going to get mixed up with all the markers. So there is a method to my madness here. When they're over, there's like a trash pile in my corner office with documents, dead nibs. This one's going to be a little more frenetic than usual. I can already tell, just based on those eyebrow lines. I'm pretty warmed up given that I've been drawing for the past hour or so, so it should come out fairly easily, I'm hoping. Tooth, another tooth. I do a gum line, and that kind of dictates where the teeth go. Lower lip, gum line, very long teeth. Yeah, no, not done yet. Okay. Okay, then the hairline is here, sideburns here, ear has to go over here to sell the perspective. There's that thing right there. Audio canal here, fold here. The jawline starts at the bottom of the ear, comes over, makes a sharp turn, comes out to the chin. You can see the front part of that chin, so we're going to basically draw that front part. Muscle comes down here, Adam's apple. Oops, Adam's apple is down here. Back of the head is here. He's got hair that continues from there. His marker's about to die. I'm not happy. Here it comes out of his forehead, like most people. Suggestion of hair. Okay, almost done. Almost done. Hang in there. Dry brush to create mascara. Shadow. This area here is a shadow. That's the shape of the shadow that's created by this muscle, tendon, whatever. Turn. Shadow the ear. The reason why I like drawing the Joker is you can make it as tight or as loose as you want. This is obviously a looser version of the character. I think it kind of expresses kind of craziness of the character within. Okay. Put a bit of black here to kind of anchor the drawing on the back side. That kind of an abstract shape. Cut into that shape though with white out when I'm done, which I will be very shortly. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I will post up on my Instagram and here when the next session will be. I'm trying to do like once a week, but it all depends on my travel schedule. And then I am going to have a gaming session too, probably this weekend. I have to get a video capture card. I forgot to get it, so that we can at least have two PCs running at the same time with people that are playing. More interesting to have kind of people playing the same game together at the same time. Okay, now I'll get a pencil. help. So some of the values here kind of accentuate some of the shapes, some scribble lines, kind of create some, again, some more frenetic activity. Finish out that hairline. It's almost 12:45. Okay. Okay. All right. So the way I handled it last time is there's a bit of a delay, so I can't tell what comment I'm going to see when I turn, but I basically did it last time where when I turned, whatever handle name I saw, please don't spam yet, please, 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 for the God. Name of God, please do not spam. And when I turn, I would see a name, and that's who would win. But you know what happened actually is it went by so fast, it was really hard to kind of focus on the first name I saw. So what I'm going to do is actually turn and take a screenshot with my keyboard, and then whatever, whoa, look at that smudge. Whatever my computer captures as the last name in that window, that chat window, and I'll put that up on Instagram as well. But I'll tell you also who wins. But please don't spam yet. I'll tell you when. I'll give you plenty of time. I'll even hesitate after I tell you to account for the delay. Okay. White out. Oh. Okay. All right, let's see what I got going on. All right, for those of you inclined, go ahead and I'm going to basically, as soon as I finish whiting this out, I'm going to grab my phone. No, I'm going to hit capture screen on my keyboard. Okay, so go ahead and start now because there's a delay. All right. Okay. I think that did it. Why did that not take a screenshot? Oh, there we go. All right, it's done. Stop. It's done. It stopped. All right, thanks a lot, guys. I will put up a schedule, most likely again this weekend sometime. All right, have a great day. Have a great Labor Day.